talking about the Lightbridge, very interested in the technology. How did you come up with the sort of concept for it? How did this come about? And what's the science behind it?
Yeah. So basically, I was a gaffer for 20 years. Worked together with Christian Berger, cinematographer, who was obsessed with natural light.
Yeah.
Because he came from doc work, and then when he came into features, 80s about, he was like, I don't like what's happening here. So he got obsessed with why don't I like this? And it took him some time to figure out what actually natural light is, which means distance. And then from there, he had the idea, well, why don't they use mirrors? Because I can double the distance. And then he did that and was like, that's all great, and still putting all these frames in front of it to diffuse it. And then when we started working together, it was like, well, let's figure something out. And so it was 15 years on this process to figure out aluminum surfaces that actually do what we need.
Right.
Aluminum reflectors are nothing new. You have them in any light source out there. But to produce something that gives you this precise grade, diffusion 0 to 4 from a real mirror to super wide, because we don't have these precise grades in the film industry, right? It's like silver here, it's something there. But to say, I want it hard, no, it's too hard, give me one softer. And then you have these steps you can go through.
Yeah.
That was one thing that was, when I first started, it was like, that actually sounds great, let's do this, let's figure this out. But the main thing was, when I started using them, was you're spill light free, because they're engineered in that kind of way. So the idea was to say, if diffuse light goes in, it has to come out in the right angle, plus a little diffusion, and nothing else.
Right.
And that only works, and that was like another 2-3 years process to find another gluing process that they're so flush and so straight.
So the stuff on it is actually glued onto the surface. Okay. For some reason in my head you were like powder coating it or something like that.
It's an anodizing process. And you can get it to a certain, we're going very technically now.
Do it.
We can go from like a real mirror that's like non-anodized.
Diff 0.
Diff 0. And then you start to change the surfaces. And there's a certain level where you can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you try to get too deep into the aluminum, you can't get consistency. Because for me, it was so important to say, you rent it in LA, you rent it in New York, it's going to be the same. Diff 2 is Diff 2.
Right.
So because it's geared for professionals, right? So that's what we have to do. So that's the reason we got the jump to Diff 4, which is super wide, which is more catered to during interviews. I need some soft, beautiful fill.
Right.
And then I need to add a light. So that's where this idea came from, why we didn't add a Diff 4 into the cage. So 15 years ago, we had these 3, and then we added the outer ones. To get this full range of things together to make it good.
For a total of 6.
For a total of 5.
5?
5.
Oh, yeah, and then 0.
Yeah, exactly.
No, and actually one thing, so obviously the extending the distance is great. You've got them in a ton of sizes.
Yes.
But one thing that I think a lot of people are interested in is, you have a million light stands, a million lights, but I think everyone has the same thought of, well, you get one light, you put it on the floor, aim it up, and then you've got 6 reflectors putting it all over the room. Was that kind of the initial joy there? Or
Never.
I mean, you're kind of doing it on this one. So that was an afterthought.
Well, the thing was, there is an amazing amount of playfulness with it. You can see it with the people playing with the houses and stuff. Because, I can add another one here, another one here. But then again, I came from the big feature film world. So for me, it was about, it has to be simple.
Right.
You're a classical trained gaffer, I have one window, I put one light in. So it was a real easy adjustment to say, keep the light on the floor, put one reflector up, but it's one light, one reflector. And if I need to add a second one, that's cool, because I can do a more soft light plus a punchy thing in the middle. But as soon as you do more, just imagine somebody kicking the stand, everything's off.
Right.
And then this whole thing came about, well, you only need one light source and you can do everything. In theory, yes, of course, but in practical, fast workflow situations, I would never recommend it.
Oh, that's great to know.
Yeah, so it's like, if you want to have a kicker from the back, yeah, sure, you can aim a reflector to the back, catch it from there, but if you move this whole tree that you have in the front, it won't work. The only way a tree will work is you have one light down below and you add multiple in the top because you just want to play around with the background.
Right.
And you can move the whole stand and it's fine, but I would really not recommend trying to do multiple things with it. And the point that you mentioned earlier was really important to me, is like, this is a tool. It's not a religion. It doesn't need one light source to make it work.
Right.
It's a reflector. You can reflect the sun, you can reflect the light bulb, the sodium vapor, and obviously all the light sources out there.
Yeah.
The rule of thumb is what goes in comes out, plus it adds a level of diffusion. So if you take an M40, you're going to get the look of the M40 with the diffusion 0. As soon as you add this level of diffusion, so you're going to lose the bubbles that sometimes you get with M40 and stuff. So
Sure.
and 100% color consistency. If you dial in the color of your light source that you like, you're going to get exactly that.
Right. Right. How did you? So those are all spectrally neutral.
That is so important.
Yeah.
It is 100% that what you put in, put out. It's crazy what our body works. Like when we see color, it's actually for a brain more important than how hard or soft it is. So I had this once, I took like an old Kino flow and I put in like old fluorescent tubes just to get this nitty-ditty, dirty look.
Right.
And obviously the accident didn't meet the mark. I was always moving further over. So I added a reflector into that. And it was harder because it was a diff 1, right? So you would see it, but because the color was so accurate, you just spot it. But I was standing there, wow, that's the way our brain works. It takes the color first. That was interesting. But all that information, knowledge comes about if you have really high-end gear that has that professional level of precision.
Right.
That stuff starts to add in and add up. Yeah.
Totally.
So if you happen with a shiny board for $5, this is not for you. But if you're looking for a quality of light, that's when the game starts.
Yeah. And actually, I can't remember what gaffer told me that, but the whole thing of using it's now I'm going to say this and it's going to make me sound really stupid, but this is something I learned after film school was getting the hard light within the soft light.
Yeah, so important.
I had no clue it was important. I just will let you go. Go ahead. In you go. Straight through there. But yeah, it was like it absolutely changes the way the scene looks.
Yes.
And it's if you know the way I had to think about it in my head was there's the sun, maybe the sun. There's also all this ambient light flying around that I think younger filmmakers or when you're in film school you don't think about that. You just go light, maybe diffusion. You know.
It's an interesting in terms of history, like when we didn't have the sensitivity of the lenses, we needed so many lights and everybody was so obsessed to make sure nobody sees the 4 million lights that are standing. And when the cameras became more sensitive, it became all about bounce and soft boxes and it was like, I put in one softbox, I'm done. But then again, you're not really using light to tell a story to create emotions.
Yeah.
So as soon as you start to add in stuff, it's like, that's where it really starts. Even like with an interview, just use a softbox, add a reflector into it, and suddenly there's more, it's more quality, it's like adding another color to it, right?
Yeah. And so what are I know you guys have the like road case, you've got the giant 100. What are the various sizes?
Well, it's European, right? So it's 7 by 7 centimeters, the smallest one. Then it's a 15, about this. 25, we can go over to the box then. 50,
sure.
like this. It's close to a 2 by. And then obviously just close to the 4 by. Yeah.
And so obviously the bigger ones intuitively make sense. But what do you see people using for the smaller ones? Just like little accent lights kind of?
There's 2 parts. One part is we more and more end up shooting in original locations where there's no space.
Right.
So these small reflectors, rigging them into corners, it really comes into play to use it. And then on the other hand, it's just great for tabletop.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And that's where they live.
And you got connected with Matthews recently. How has that been going for you guys?
Look, it's amazing. The thing is, in Europe, the system works differently. There's the gaffer and there's the lighting and the grip crew, and it's one. And then when we started coming to the States, it's like, no, that's not the way it works here. There's different crews. Then again, East and West Coast is different. And then obviously the size of America is just the size of America. Right. And they needed a partner that was able to fulfill these orders, to have the knowledge of 50 years of Matthews in the background to pull that off.
Yeah.
And then, for me, the most importantly, honestly, was something else. It was like, if you look at Matthews' products and you see the guy who invented it, this is from key grip so-and-so, this is from grip so-and-so.
Yeah.
And they looked at this and said, this is exactly what Lightbridge is. We came out of the community, we're there for the community, so the same kind of values, let's say, that are based behind that. It really gave me the feeling that works. And then when you meet all the guys in Matthews, it's like these are just so serious people, but they're honest and they're straightforward.
Yeah.
And that's something goes hand in hand the way I see life. So that was, for me personally, the more important is having the professional background of saying their gear is high end. They don't care about, cheap or whatever. And then if it breaks after a couple of months, that's the same thing for us too. Yeah. So I think that's where this merge is so important.
Totally. Well, and I can say, I'm a DP.
Yeah.
From my perspective, in the DP circles, it's just been every everyone is talking about these damn things.
Really?
Like, and I don't think, I think you guys have done a great job because it's not, like influencers trying to get it. It's just straight up gaffers and DPs that are just salivating over it. So really well done and very cool product.
Thank you.